What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I got a brand new video for y'all, and we're going back to where we originally started, which was the U.S. presidential election videos. So it's been a while since I made one of these. I've been focusing more so on Canadian politics, so I apologize to my American viewers and subscribers, but we're back on the American grind. So I just want to say it's been a while, actually. It's been probably a week or so. No, not even a week. It's probably been 2 weeks now since I last made one of these. So a lot has changed. Obviously, we had the debate. That's the last time I made a prediction. So it's been about 2 weeks. But yeah, so a lot's changed. The race has changed quite a bit. And we can see right here that Trump is up. Trump is up in the polls. And it is not that surprising. Um, Now, I'm going to show the individual states because I think those are more important. But what I need to address is that Trump has clearly gone a major bump, and many of the mainstream media outlets don't seem to be covering it, but I will be covering it today. So if we go to the map right here, we can obviously go and give some of these states to the respective parties just based on historical trends. But what I want to say is that I think people tend to underestimate Trump. And I know a lot of people have made this, sort of a big deal that, yeah, the polls, they don't really mean much, but I think they mean a lot less than we realize on election day. But I think this year, it's more so the case than before. You got to understand, people will not, many people, I'm not going to say everybody, but many people are afraid to publicly voice their support for Trump, right? Like there is a large contingency of people that are either lower class or they are upper class and they're making, anywhere from 200 to about 4 to 500,000. So these are like the what we would call upper middle class, sometimes higher than that. But those people typically they tend to vote Republican and they may be afraid to talk about Trump because, maybe they fear getting yelled at work or whatever it may be. So they don't typically voice their support for Trump. But rest assured, they are voting for Trump. Okay, these people are voting for Trump. And what we see often is that the media often says, oh, well, the tide is turning in favor of Harris. Okay, just generally speaking. But you can't make that generalization when you have absolutely zero fact to back it up, especially when you're not covering the demographics, right? They tend to focus a lot on racial demographics, which is an important indicator, by the way. I'm not denying that. But they tend to forget the financial aspect as well, which is actually a major aspect that they tend to leave out, which honestly does have major implications. Now, obviously, we look at this map, and I will give Virginia to blue, by the way, for now. But we can talk about that later on. So we got about Minnesota as well as blue. We got about 6 swing states here. These are all the same typical ones that we see all the time. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada. North Carolina, I will talk about that in a second. I'll do it quickly. So North Carolina, I think you guys already know what's going on with Mark Robinson. I don't think I need to repeat it, but for those of you that don't know, he was essentially just a bunch of things, man. But he was essentially he was caught making comments on some sort of porn website or something. I don't know what it was. And he's gone, man. Like he called himself like a black Nazi and he said all sorts of crazy things. He's running for governor of North Carolina. He's a Republican. He's already down 10 points by then. But he's definitely going to lose. Now, what many people are saying and are implying is that will actually bring down Trump as well because he has such a bad rep. Now, I don't think that's going to be true. Keep in mind, Harris was leading at one point. She did lead in North Carolina for the first time on September 18th, but it has shifted back to Trump. And then again, I will say this pretty confidently. I do think North Carolina will go to Republicans. It typically does go Republican. I don't see why that would change this time around. And it would take a lot for North Carolina to flip to blue, even though they will win gubernatorially. I think that's pretty clear now. The guy, I think it's Josh Stein. He's the Democrat nominee. He's probably going to win by 20, 30 points. It's not even going to be close. But if we look at Arizona, which is another state that typically votes Republican, we see something that is rather similar as well. Harris is once up by 0.1 points. Very short-lived. It only lasted a few days, not even a full week. And Trump, actually, we had an even matchup here on September 18th. Again, Harris saw a bump on September 18th, which almost led her to win North Carolina, or to lead in North Carolina, I should say, rather. But she isn't. It always reverts back to what usually happens, to homeostasis. And that homeostasis is typically in favor of Trump in terms of Arizona. And Arizona does typically vote Republican. They did actually vote Democrat in the last election. I know I keep saying that over and over again, but yes, that is true. But at the same token, most of these states that, like, if we look at 2016, Wisconsin voted Republican, Michigan voted Republican. I think Pennsylvania also voted Republican. They all flipped in 2020, right? So these things happen, they change. Now that I know that these three are swing states, but Arizona has recently become sort of a swing state. By the way, I will address Georgia in a second. I don't know why I put it as solid red, but I'll talk about that really quickly and explain why I put Georgia as solid red. Now, Georgia, Trump is up about 1.4 points. He's almost up 2 points. Georgia, again, is another state. Like, it became a swing state last election, but I do think it will revert back to where it usually votes, which is Republican. And that would put Trump at 262 to 226 against Harris. There's still 4 swing states left. So, theoretically speaking, he would only need to win something as small as Wisconsin. Not too small like Nevada, because that wouldn't win the election, but he would get pretty close. So we'll talk about Wisconsin in a second, but I want to go to Nevada really quickly, because Nevada is another one that, sorry, is it Nevada or is it Nevada? I don't know how you say it, because I know there's some people in my comment section saying, oh, it's not Nevada, it's Nevada. Well, I call it Nevada and I don't care. So Harris is up 0.7. Again, Nevada, whatever you want to call it, typically does vote Democrat, but Nevada is one of those states that tends to vote Republican, especially in recent elections, right? Like, on a gubernatorial level, I don't know if they have a Republican governor. They may or may not. I'm not sure. But Nevada has steadily been shifting to the right in recent years, especially with the expansion of Vegas and, low tax rates, and it just being in a Republican dominated area, which is sort of like that Arizona area. I would not be surprised if Nevada went to Republicans. And I know a lot of people, their knee-jerk reaction would be, oh no, Nevada's going to Democrats. It always goes to Democrats. I wouldn't be so sure to say that, because people also said the same thing about Arizona in 2020. It'll definitely go to Republicans. It did not. But this time, I do believe that Nevada, for the first time in a long time, I don't know how long it's been, but I think that Republicans will win Nevada, thus putting Trump at 268 to 226. Now, all he has to do is win one of these three states. But again, these 3 states are pretty big, and they're pretty important, because Harris still has a path to victory, believe it or not. If she wins all 3, she wins the election. But then again, we don't know what's going to happen, but we will find out in a second. So Wisconsin, another interesting one. Harris typically dominated Wisconsin about 3 points, 4 points. I would say it's probably more so like 4 points. For all of these, by the way, I would give sort of like a plus or minus 1, especially for the swing states, because you really don't know how many people are actually disclosing whether they're going to vote or not, or who they're going to vote for. So there's a lot of wiggle room to be had there. I know that was a big mistake that many pollsters made in 2020, especially with some of the states like Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania, which were really close. But this, I would say, if it's 2.7 or 2.6, I would boost Harris up by about 1 point, if not anywhere from 0.5 to 1. It doesn't really matter. But when you look at it, either way, you still see that Harris is winning. So she's up by about 1.9 points, which I would say is probably 3. In reality, by the way, I'm saying this because in reality it's probably 3. 3 points is pretty comfortable, but then again, we don't know what's going to happen, because what I will say is this: in 2020, when Biden won, he was leading by 8 points in terms of the popular vote, okay, before the election happened. But he only ended up winning by, I think, 4 points in the popular vote. Now, with that being said, I mean, Biden did have a pretty large margin, which is 8 points. Harris has about 2.7 nationally, so it's not that much. But I do think Wisconsin will go blue. I think it'll be very difficult for Trump to win all 3 Rust Belt states. And I think it would be naive of me to say that he will win all of these 3 with certainty. With that being said, we will get to Michigan in 1 second. Now, today, actually, this is brand new news. So Harris is up 2.4 in Michigan. Again, Michigan, I would say it's a bit less than 1 point, plus or minus. I would say it's probably 0.5, because Michigan is a lot closer, and, there's a lot of A lot of silent Republicans in Michigan. You wouldn't believe it. Um, but Michigan, again, what I will say is that this morning there was a Muslim mayor of a city in Michigan. I don't remember what city it was. He actually endorsed Trump, right? So that's the first sort of like endorsement from the Arab community for Trump and the Republicans. So that's a major point, and I was always like hyping that up as the major factor that would really sway the election and sway the vote, because the Arab population is pretty big in Michigan. So I was like, okay, well, are they really going to vote for Trump? Probably not. Are they really going to vote for Harris? Definitely not. But now it seems like he endorsed Trump, so that could definitely sway some things. And I will say this again: the silent vote for Republicans in Michigan is pretty large. As a result of that, I just can't give Harris two of the three Rust Belt swing states. I can't. I think that would be very naive of me to say that. And that is why I will give Michigan to Donald Trump, thus securing his presidency, which will be his second presidency, non-consecutive terms. And then if we look at Pennsylvania, obviously at that point it doesn't really matter if he wins Penn or not, but it would be interesting to see. So Harris is actually up in Penn. She's actually increased her lead. So on September 16th, that was for like the breaking point. About a week after the debate, she's now up by 1.3. Again, Pennsylvania is one of those other states. It typically tends to favor Republicans in terms of silent vote. But in 2020, things were very close, but Democrats edged it out by very little. With that being said, the assassination attempt, the first one actually, not the second one, the first one happened in Pennsylvania, the one where he actually got shot in the ear. Butler County, Pennsylvania, so that was right in the heart of Pennsylvania. It's a pretty Republican area, but I think Pennsylvania is a state that people tend to underestimate in terms of Republican support, and that's why I believe that it'll go to Republicans. Now, this is my map right now. If you take a look at my other prediction videos, you can see how much it has changed over time. You know, I made countless videos of these prediction videos, but my mind in general hasn't changed in terms of who's going to win the presidency. Now, I know a lot of Harris people are going to come in my comment section. A lot of Democrats are going to come in my comment section and say, oh, you're a right-wing phony or whatever, you're biased. Look, listen, here's the thing, okay? You can name call and all that stuff, but the reality is the facts don't lie. Okay, polls only mean something to a certain extent. And every time that we have relied on polls, the actual outcome tends to favor Trump over any other candidate, right? So it would be naive to solely base your predictions on the polls only, because frankly, they don't tell us much, except for the fact that, you know, certain candidate has received more votes of approval from people that have indicated their willingness to participate in that survey. So it's a very slippery slope, and I wouldn't rely on them, you know, just solely on the polls to make an election prediction. Now, with that being said, a lot of these numbers are coming from facts, what I've seen on the ground, what I've seen in terms of interviews, what I've seen in terms of people that I know who live in these states that have expressed their situations in those states. So this is all based on fact, quantitative and qualitative data, both. But I mean, this is what I'm sticking with, 302 to 236. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And please let me know, do you guys want me to make more of these videos again? Because I've sort of stopped making them, at least for a bit. But let me know what you guys think. And thank you all for the support that I've received for the last few days and weeks. It's been incredible. We're almost at 500, so let's reach that goal. I will see you all in the next one.